What's up, freaks? This is the Bitcoin Sign Guy.
And this is Gary Leland, and you're listening to episode 103 of the Crypto Cousins podcast.
Feed your interest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies by joining Hall of Fame podcaster Gary Leland on the Crypto Cousins podcast. And remember, we are all cousins in the world of crypto. This week's price of Bitcoin.
$9,711. That's down $2,846, or 22.8% over the last 7 days. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome to the show, BSG. I've been trying to get you on here for a while. Thanks for taking the time.
Ahoy. How's it going, Gary?
It's going great. Actually, someone asked me that yesterday, I think, or last night. And I told him at the age of 64, my life is going better than it's ever gone in my entire life. It's just a shame I'm 64.
That's excellent. Keep it monotonic.
Monotonic. I like that word there. Yeah. So life been treating you pretty good, dude?
Very well. You're probably running around with your hair on fire, or not these days. How's the conference coming together?
Oh, it's coming great. I am running around like my hair's on fire. I'm doing this, and then after this, I'm with Pierre and Michael on their podcast. I was on one this morning. I am just so not only doing mine, but keeping up with other ones. And I've taken on too many side projects, but I've got my regular employees here at my office are all having to work on BitBlock Boom now.
Well, I saw you got some great cypherpunk swag from Rodolfo Novak.
Yes, I did, and there's still more coming. He has been very nice to the conference. Hey, I want to get into that stuff later. I want to start out. Well, first of all, give us like a 30-second bio on yourself. What you can say.
Sure. So I'm from Connecticut. I was all prepared for a career in finance. Not all prepared. I mean, I was just a kid, sort of going through college, but I had a number of financial internships through a global macro hedge fund, a foreign trading desk, currency trading desk when I was studying abroad. And then it was through those experiences that I discovered perhaps there were some gaps in the monetary paradigm, in the worldview of central bankers. So I decided to investigate things a little further with specific regard to Bitcoin as an alternative to that worldview at a free market think tank in Washington, D.C. And when I was there, as a course of just my work, I was sent to cover one of the congressional testimonies of the Federal Reserve officer, Janet Yellin. And I had previously covered this testimony as a matter of duty at my previous employment. So I knew that the camera would be on and that people that I used to work with would be watching. But that's sort of how I got from just being a passerby of Bitcoin to sort of catapulted me to the center of everything.
Yes, it definitely catapulted you in the center. There's a couple of things there that you mentioned that are going to be questions about. Number one, this has nothing to do with Bitcoin necessarily, but I've always wondered, how does a think tank work? I mean, is it just a bunch of smart guys and you all get together and sit around a round table and say, hey, what do you think about this? You say, okay.
Sure.
So how does that work?
Well, I guess to preface, you should say that a think tank believes in traditional politics. So it believes in the importance of voice and, winning the day with sound policy proposals and then strategizing that in the context of, say, demographics, what lawmakers want to bring to their constituents, and then also within a certain political mindset. So the one that I worked at was explicitly libertarian, in favor of free markets, constitutional rights, non-interventionist foreign policy, the list goes on. So they have donors that would like to see their political worldview affected in policy. So they publish reports on certain areas of policy. So my focus was monetary policy. And they're not exactly the same as lobbyists. They're more the people that create resources that lobbyists can deploy, if you will. So they have, I guess, a normative view on what a given policy area should look like. So, for example, the monetary scholars that I worked with believe that the Federal Reserve should be governed by a more rules-based monetary policy, a more directly algorithmic setting of the Taylor rule for interest rate targeting, as opposed to, discretionary monetary policy as we have now. So that's just an example, but it's small incremental. They desire small incremental changes really on the margin. It's incrementalist and not revolutionary, if you will.
Well, I've heard that term my whole life. And I've always just kind of envisioned all these guys go in this room and sit around this table and start thinking about something and pull out books and research it and try to come up with some answers. But it sounds like I said, they're creating content, or one part of it is creating information and content or tools for the lobbyists to use that affect a certain thing. Right.
And it's not even that the lobbyists just take what they produce and bring it to Congress. There's for every law that actually gets passed in the United States, there's 10 times or greater the amount of just administrative rulemaking that gets done. And so this is, far down the line in the committees and subcommittees and administrations. And so when these rulemaking sessions happen, there are comment periods where anyone can submit what they think about, say, a proposed rule that might exist. So think tank scholars, they contribute open letters into these comments, things like that. They're really just to couch potential policies in terms of existing theory.
So while working for the think tank, you were sent to a congressional committee meeting about the Federal Reserve.
So it was testimony by the president, by the chairwoman of the Federal Reserve, okay, to the House Financial Services Committee.
Okay. And for those who don't know, during this committee meeting, BSG here held up a sign that said "Buy Bitcoin" behind Janet Yellin. And this was back in July 2017. And we're going to talk about that because I just find this story not only hilarious, I really think this did a lot for Bitcoin. I mean, I really did. But when you went to this meeting, did you do anything special to get that seat? Because you were sitting in the primo spot to do this.
Yeah, no, that was just luck of the draw. It's a public hearing, so anyone can go. It was not premeditated. I just had a decent seat.
Because you were sitting you were right over Janet Yellen's right-hand shoulder. Right there.
Yeah, seated 2 seats to my right was just a homeless guy who was rambling about the Federal Reserve and this and that. So it really is open to the public. Anyone can get that seat next time.
Well, that was a very good seat. And then,
though I did notice that at the next Humphrey Hawkins testimony, which is actually the title of that testimony, at the one the following year for Jay Powell, they had a more extreme camera angle that actually occluded the seat behind him, which is sort of funny.
That is kind of funny. I wonder if there was anything to do with you.
Yeah, we can wonder.
Yeah, we can always wonder. Okay, now, when you went to this meeting, were you already pretty much a Bitcoiner?
Yeah, I was.
Obviously, I would think you were since you held a sign, but were you did you just know about it, or were you really into it?
No, I was into it. And that was really the motivation for me to go work at the think tank in the first place. A place to study the policy as related to the forefront of monetary policy. Even though what the think tank opined upon on a daily basis was far from what Bitcoiners litigate on Twitter, they still have the most forward thoughts in institutional settings about cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin.
Well, now you're sitting there, you have a notepad. This is just a manila pad, a lined pad like anyone would take notes on. And it's obvious.
Regular legal pad.
Yeah, I've heard you speak on Pomp Show, so I know you didn't make this up ahead of time, but it was pretty obvious you didn't make this up ahead of time. I mean, from the sign, it looks like you just got your pen and started scratching out buy Bitcoin on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess that's just the mimetic propagation of Bitcoin. It replicates itself. It doesn't really doesn't take it. It never took a committee, years and years to plan and plot every moment when Bitcoin enters the discourse. It just inserts itself from the outside.
It's okay, so you scribbled buy Bitcoin on the sign, and it really looked good. I mean, for being scribbling, you must have some artistic ability.
Thank you. I did, in fact, study art at school.
There you go. I mean, I could tell. I mean, it was all evenly spaced. I mean, not that the lettering was a work of art, but it was evenly spaced. It was, a lot of people run out of room at the end when they're writing something big like that. And the last letters get smaller and smaller, thinner and thinner. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
and yours were all evenly proportioned. Did you get that on one try, or did you have to start over?
I'll be honest, it was a one-shot deal.
Because you might have run out of letters, and you might have done it 2 or 3 times. So here I'm giving you cred. I thought I should double check there. And then you hold it up during the committee, right? I mean, I'm telling you, you're in the perfect spot, right over her right-hand shoulder. And did you know the firestorm was going to break out?
No, in fact, I had no idea. Really, I thought that I would just collect the picture after the fact and.
Oh, that you'd get it off of somewhere, off.
Yeah, I'd get it off the live stream. I'd take a screenshot. I'd show my dad, who also works on Wall Street, and that he'd get a kick out of it, but it would go no further.
What'd your dad think of it?
Oh man, I mean, he was embarrassed at first. I mean, I've been slowly warming him up on Bitcoin, but he represents, the conservative mindset of financial services that really does not favor, drastic changes, and that really respects the technocratic angle of the Federal Reserve and the way that they conduct monetary policy. So, as far as he's concerned, mocking the Fed or any type of signal of being outside of their worldview was equivalent to suicide in terms of your career. But I think that Bitcoin has exploded the conversation so far that, that wasn't the case.
So it's actually going to be one of those things that when time goes by, your dad's going to go, gosh, you were right. We should all bought Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, there've been a lot of martyrs on the way toward hyper Bitcoinization. You have like the Liberty Reserve, for example, great example of people that had the same intuition that monetary policy was crooked, but they got nailed and got into hot water. Didn't have quite the right mix of decentralization to permit their project to succeed, like Bitcoin.
Yeah, and since Bitcoin is so decentralized, what are you going to do? I mean, how are you going to stop it? Who are you going to call? I mean, nobody. Hey, when you held up your sign, I mean, it's not like you held it up forever, but after a few minutes, someone came and got you, right?
Yeah, that's the case.
And so tell me about that.
Well, that's just the parliamentarian.
So you can't hold up signs, or was it because you can't hold up signs, or because it was a Bitcoin sign? What do you think?
I think both. You can't hold up signs, but this sign sort of became viral on Twitter. I didn't really know about it. As a matter of fact, my phone had been dead because we were waiting in line for so long to get into the hearing. I used up all my juice. So it wasn't really until I got back to my office that I figured out that anything really came of it.
And how was that? What was that like when you came in? So you're just coming in going, oh, okay, I got asked to leave the meeting. Here I'm back at work.
Well,
not thinking anything exciting, but it had blown up, like you said, and gone viral. So tell me about that experience. What was that like?
It was a little disconcerting. I definitely got more attention than I bargained for. But to the extent that I later, met Bitcoiners through the sign, later that evening, I met Niraj Agrawal for the first time. And he's sort of the Bitcoin meme MC, if you will. And so that he made me feel better about things.
You quickly became, well, overnight, an overnight celebrity in the Bitcoin world, I would say.
Thank you.
I mean,
thank you.
I don't think there's anyone who's a real strong Bitcoinist that doesn't know the story. And, they may not know you because you're not really out there promoting yourself by your name and face. But once they hear you're Bitcoin sign guy, they probably go, oh, wow, Bitcoin sign guy. They know who Bitcoin sign guy is.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's been fun to meet Bitcoiners this way.
Well, I'm sure you're like me and every other Bitcoiner out there. You're stacking sats as much as you can.
Oh, yeah. Thank you to Marty and Matt for that meme.
I agree. When I had Matt on, I had to make sure. I said, as far as I can tell, you're the one who started this. Am I correct?
We're gonna attribute it to him.
Yeah, I'm attributing. And he even said, someone else may have said it. I never heard him say it. So, I mean, because he didn't want to take credit for it in case someone else had. But
yeah, sure. Nah, let's officially give it to him right here, right now.
I agree. You can't go wrong doing that.
It's amazing how fast that one has spread, because now you have Casa coming out with the Sats app, and they have Stacking Sat Saturday. We also have a new holiday every Tuesday. It's Bitcoin Tuesday. So that's just a day of the week where we can all be hype about Bitcoin on Twitter.
Well, I thought every day was Bitcoin Day.
Well, yeah, but Bitcoin Tuesday, it's a day where you can go a little overboard.
Okay, but some people, that's kind of hard to do. That's all they do is post Bitcoin as it is. I guess instead of them posting 50 times about it, they post 60.
Yeah, Nick Carter especially.
It's amazing. I never used Twitter. I got on Twitter in like 2004, a long time ago, but I never used it. I just got my name. And then now, that's all I'm on is Twitter. I don't even go to anything else. I have 10 times the amount of follows on Facebook, but I don't even go to Facebook anymore.
Yeah, Facebook is sort of fallow ground in terms of content.
Yeah, I don't even go there anymore. And gosh, it took me years to develop that much, the people that I have there. I think in my groups I have well over 1 million people, and I don't even go. I've just kind of abandoned it for Bitcoin.
It will be interesting to see what type of traction they get with Libra and Calibra, since as far as I can tell, nobody my age really touches that site anymore. Everyone's on Twitter or I guess Instagram. I don't use Instagram or Snapchat, but I think that those are the other ones where people hang out.
I would have to agree with you. And I'm also wondering, I'm just seeing a lot of things with Libra that countries are saying no or telling them they got to put it on hold, or they said they weren't going into India.
Yeah, that's, I think, what they probably bargained for. But to the investor on the sideline, that just spells out the value of Bitcoin and the importance of permissionless protocols.
Well, anyone talking about cryptocurrency is good news for Bitcoin. I mentioned this on a show earlier in case someone has heard this the second time, but I haven't told you. I went to my dentist maybe 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And to get my teeth cleaned, and the lady who cleans my teeth goes, Gary, I know you're all into Bitcoin and stuff, right? I said, yeah. And she goes, can you tell me about this Facebook coin? I'm like, really? Why are you asking me this? Because it was the last thing I would have expected her to ask. Right. She goes, well, I've been seeing it on the news and stuff, so I figured I better start finding out. I knew you would know the question. So I thought that was funny that she's had no interest ever in crypto, ever. And now she's asking me what it is.
Well, yeah, I guess, Facebook is the household name. But there's that, the critical number of times that someone needs to see, a word or a marketed product before they start to engage more seriously with it. So Facebook will bring us closer to that critical number for most uninitiated people. For future Bitcoiners, we'll call them.
Yeah. Everyone will probably be a future Bitcoiner, though, so we can probably call everybody at some point in time will probably have to get into Bitcoin. Hey, you made a statement. I was listening to you, I think, on Pomp's show. Mm-hmm. I kind of do my research before I get someone on here. I listen to the podcast while I'm driving and get information.
Oh, well, thank you for listening to that.
It was a good episode. You mentioned on that show that you had maybe done a Bitcoin QR code after the incident happened, that people told you to do that because other people might try to make money off of your image, making like they were you. I'm trying to make sure I explain this right, because I don't think this was your thought going, oh, I can cash in on this, but all of a sudden you realized that if you didn't do it yourself, someone else would be cashing in on it and making like they were you.
Well, as I can't say it any better than Michael Goldstein or Bitstein on Twitter. Everyone's a scammer. Everyone's got to stack sats somehow.
Well, speaking of that was Michael's talk last year at BitBlock Boom.
Yeah, it was a great talk. I'm looking forward to his talk this upcoming year.
Yes, and he's got another great talk this year. I just added the title of it, and I can't remember. But for those who may not be aware, which if you listen to this podcast at all, you got to be aware. But in case you're a first timer, I want to make sure everybody knows about BitBlock Boom. This is where I met you at last year. Was at BitBlock Boom. It's a conference that I run on with the help of Michael and Pierre Richard and Michael Goldstein, and a bunch of people help me out. It's in Dallas, August 17th and 18th, and it's a real Bitcoin conference. And I say that because that's all we talk about is Bitcoin.
Right.
We don't talk about alts or shitcoins or anything, just Bitcoin. And I went to a conference earlier this year that was a Bitcoin conference, and not even one speaker spoke about Bitcoin. Not even one. So
really?
Ours, that's all you can talk about. You can't even have a table as a vendor unless you're a Bitcoin vendor. I mean, right. I'm pretty serious, and that makes it really hard to do this conference. I mean, I'm like really limited on my vendors, because I have to like knock out 3/4 of them because they want to vend or talk about something else. But for those listening, go to bitblockboom.com and look at our great lineup of speakers. And if you use the code COUSINS, COUSINS at checkout, you'll get 30% off the price of your ticket. So go check it out today. It's a great event, and there are a lot of events going on around it. I think I actually met you at the dinner that was last year on Friday night and is this year on Friday night.
Yeah, so sure. I'll shill that people come to the Satoshi Nakamoto Institute dinner last year. Great fun. Good cause. Michael Goldstein has been dutifully curating all of the seminal statements of Satoshi and other seminal papers by early Bitcoiners. And so we'll support him there. I think it's the night of the 16th.
That's correct.
On the eve of the conference.
That's a great way to roll in the conference because everybody's all wiped out from that.
Yeah, exactly.
Last year I had to leave at 10. That wine never quit pouring.
I
had to leave at 10 because I made a mistake and drove, and I said I got to leave now if I stay another hour or two.
That was Defense Distributed. I remember they sponsored the wine, and it was not in short supply.
And that was not a cheap restaurant. So that was not $5 a bottle of wine.
It was quite nice. I think this year we're doing barbecue.
I think that they might have decided to go back to steak.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure. I don't know why I felt like I heard that. I felt like I heard that at Bitcoin 2019. We had a carnivore dinner on a rooftop up there the night before that event. And I could have sworn someone told me that, but don't hold me to that. But wherever it's at, it's going to be good. I'm going to ask you another question about, well, I guess it's not another question. I didn't ask you the first one. But members of Congress, that are into finance and stuff, do you think they get Bitcoin? What Bitcoin could do to the economy?
Well, some of them do. There are some, call them monetary nerds in Congress, but many of them really have no clue. I mean, even today in the Libra hearing or something like that, there was a congressman, what was his name? One second, I know it here. David Scott, Democratic representative from Georgia. I mean, he confused Libra with LIBOR, the London interbank offer rate.
Right.
And so, I mean, if he can't even keep that clear in his mind, he doesn't even have the experts on his staff. When he's on the House Financial Services Committee, he doesn't even have the people on his staff to explain that through to him. I don't think there's really any chance that he could have a very developed view on Bitcoin or the economics of sound money, etc. So most of these Congress people, they really want one thing, which is just to make sure that hard economic times don't fall on their constituents. And so for most, that means that they're just perma-doves. They always want to cajole the Federal Reserve into keeping rates lower for longer and running the economy hot. Ironically, these are the same people that get angry over bailouts, but they do not know what they do.
So as a whole, you really don't think they know what's going on? Just an opinion. Not...
Most don't. I mean, even sophisticated policy analysts, don't fully get Bitcoin. So the place I was at, they were certainly forward thinking on monetary policy, but even they aren't, say, dyed in the cloth Bitcoin maximalists. So it really takes a while and a lot of study to sort of come around to the worldview that we share.
Next question is, what is, in your definition, a crypto anarchist? Because I think when most people think of an anarchist, they think of someone running around with a mask on trying to burn down everything.
Right. Well, the contrast here is made by Ernst Junger that an anarchist is the opposite of an anarch. An anarch is someone who's willing to build and be constructive to the end of self-sovereignty, whereas an anarchist is it's only the destructive end. They only can see what they want to tear down. And so it's a more nihilistic position. So I see Bitcoin as being entirely constructive. As the saying goes, cypherpunks write code. So Bitcoin is something that has been built, and it has taken incredible amounts of effort from people in many capacities to bring it to where it is today. So it's about building something that is self-sovereign and not being willing to step up to the plate of self-sustainability, self-reliance, self-ownership.
So a crypto anarchist is not trying to tear everything down.
Maybe the term should be crypto anarch.
Crypto anarch. Yeah, that's what I was getting at. I think that's the wrong word.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, anarchist, it's sort of it's to paint with a broad brush, and it's the term that's been used. But, once you're splitting hairs about, anarch versus anarchist, I think maybe that's easier. It's like these terms are very easily perverted and misconstrued. Like, for example, liberalism hardly means what it used to.
Right. Hey, what about Bitcoin coming up? Is there anything that you're looking at that's coming to shape or coming up or being built right now for Bitcoin that you've seen that you're kind of excited about?
Sure. Well, I'm sort of far from technically fluent with Bitcoin, but there's certainly a lot. You have the upper layers of Bitcoin, like the Lightning Network. You have federated side chains, like Elements from Blockstream, RSK. And then you also have just basic, pre-existing Bitcoin features, P2SH, hash time locks, contracts, and atomic swaps. And so you have a lot of tools in your toolkit to develop on Bitcoin. And on the horizon, we have new base layer improvements coming, Schnorr signatures, Taproot, Mast. So Miniscript from Andrew Polstra, which, as I understand, is sort of like Solidity for Bitcoin. So we have a lot of things to be excited about. And so now it's a question of, as more businesses get built within the Bitcoin space, seeing which of these technologies they'll designate to, use as the backbone for their products. So, for example, Casa, with the Sats app, they're doing the Lightning Network, which I think is one of the more obvious and, straightforward ways of doing it. For large companies, for enterprises, maybe side chains are the way to go. But I really can't say. It's
You know what I think is one of the most exciting things that is happening?
What's that?
As you just mentioned it, we mentioned it earlier, is people are starting to call it Sats.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the...
And you know why I say that? You don't know why I say that. I don't know why I asked that question. Let me rephrase that. Let me tell you why I say that. How's that sound better?
Please do.
I think the average person can't work with decimals. I really think they can't.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
When I have kids come in, whether they're in college or high school for part-time summer jobs, I only ask a couple of questions because I can look at them and carry a conversation on with them and tell them if they're halfway educated enough to work for me. They don't have to be real educated. but I want them to know simple math. And so I always ask them, do you know what a third of 100 is? Which I think myself is not that technical of a question if you went to high school and took math. Mm-hmm. 1 out of 30 knows that answer.
What?
I'm serious. When someone told me they asked that question to all the people they interview. And I said, what? Yeah. This was 25 years ago. I said, that's crazy talk. And they go, you ask. Because they dared me. Go, you ask people when you interview them what a third of 100 is. He goes, I don't care if you're asking them for a job that pays $7.50 an hour or $30,000-$40,000 a year. You ask them what a third of 100 is. And he's right. The majority of people, and their answer is always the same. They'll kind of hee-haw around and go, is it a quarter, 50 cents? And then they'll go, math was not my best subject. And I kind of feel like going, did you take it? I mean, So if they can't do a third of 100, this is my thinking. How are they going to know what 0.001248 is? They don't even know what that is when they see it written down. They're going, I don't even know what that number is.
Well, I think the thing to keep in mind about the Bitcoin numeraire is that it can't be designated. So it's rather converged upon from different sides intersubjectively. So my personal prediction is that we'll converge upon kilo Satoshis. So
and I heard you mention that. What is a kilo? Because really on Satoshis, if you say something's $10, you're saying it's 60,000 Satoshis, which sounds like a lot. And it's a difficult number, but it's a heck of a lot better than 0.000125 or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. To the extent that normal things will be priced, call it a hamburger for 10,000 Satoshis, you could say, hamburger is 10 KSATs.
Oh. So, and that is an easier number to digest.
Mm-hmm.
10 KSATs versus 10,000 Satoshis.
Right.
But I think either one of them is an improvement for the average person.
Oh, absolutely.
Talk than the point decimals. Because like I said, most people can't even do thirds, quarters, or
right.
0.75.
Right.
So,
and nobody has told us to use Satoshis, but we are, because that's far more functional.
And it's what we want to do. Well, I like the KSATs.
Yeah. I just hope that people aren't, disappointed that, they won't be able to have a whole Bitcoin. I mean, too bad, but
yeah, that's what's going to happen. Yeah. It's going to happen.
I know.
Then.
Mentally, everyone is we're going to have to redefine what a millionaire is and what a billionaire is. If the dollar, gets inflated to nothing, we're going to be in the uncomfortable situation of having to sort of rejigger all of our mental benchmarks for what constitutes rich. Because, I mean, there will be some level of Satoshi that will be considered Jeff Bezos wealth and there on down, but we'll have to find it.
Hey, let me ask you a couple questions here.
Sure.
So, what is your favorite book?
I like the Bible, but
that's a good book.
Other than that, I like I like Moby Dick.
Well, I've read the Bible more than any book. How about your favorite podcast?
Of course, I like Tales from the Crypt and Rabbit Hole Recap with Marty Bent and Matt Odell.
And they're doing that show live at BitBlock Boom on the stage.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I like Noted with Pierre and Michael Goldstein.
I'm on that show tonight.
I like Pomp.
I listened to that today.
I like Peter McCormick, What Bitcoin Did.
Yeah.
And I like Stefan Livera.
I met him in California for the first time.
Yeah, he's excellent.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy. Really nice guy.
Oh, yeah, and Crypto Voices is also good.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Crypto Voices, Matt Menzikis. I'm mispronouncing.
I'm writing that down. I'll subscribe to that.
Fernando Ulrich, I think his name is.
Okay.
I also like, what's the name of Vortex's show? He's good. I like Jimmy Song's output.
But Jimmy
really, Jimmy's great. He I think has a show with Tone Vase and Leah Wald still.
Right.
There's really just so much content, so many passionate Bitcoiners.
There's a lot of content in the world of Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin is a crowded field.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how much there is.
Well, I'm going to have to say we're going to have to bring this to an end, but BSG, thanks so much for coming on the show. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing you again in California, and I'll enjoy seeing you at the dinner, because that'll be the next time I see you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Gary. It's been a pleasure, man.
I hope you enjoyed today's show. A big thank you to all the cousins out there that are showing their support by donating, subscribing, and leaving great reviews on iTunes. All of those things help more than you realize. Now, you can subscribe almost anywhere podcasts are available by going to cryptocuzens.com/subscribe. Call me with your comments or questions at 747-777-9471, or you can email me at thecryptocousins@gmail.com, and I'll try to use these on future episodes. Please take a peek at the 4-Minute Crypto Show, which is produced every weekday and located at 4minutecrypto.com. It's the place to get your daily dose of crypto news, and as always, 4 minutes or less. And one last thing, please take a look at my new website, Crypto Crybaby. This website is for the true crypto fan and sells Bitcoin and crypto gear like t-shirts, caps, and so much more. Take a look at CryptoCrybaby.com today. Thanks again for listening. Love you guys.
Thanks for listening to the Crypto Cousins podcast. Please share the show with your friends. They can subscribe by going to cryptocousins.com/subscribe. And if you want to know more about Gary, just go to GaryLeland.com. Make sure and join Gary and all the Crypto Cousins every week for a new episode of the Crypto Cousins podcast. The Crypto Cousins podcast and the information included in the podcast are not intended as investment advice. Investing in any cryptocurrency is risky, and you should never invest more than you can afford to lose. Always seek professional advice before investing in any cryptocurrency. Please understand, you are using any and all information from the Crypto Cousins at your own risk.